Hi, my name is Neil Kelleher. In this video I'm going to talk about balance, or balancing on one foot in particular, how to make it a little bit easier, ideally how to make it a little bit easier, but also some specific muscle control techniques that you can practice prior to balance and while you're actually working on balance. And in this video I'll focus on two things. One is foot control, shin rotation and foot control, and the other is revisiting the idea of sitting bone control and using that to actually create hip stability. So in this video the focus will be on learning to use both your foot and your hip to make balancing on one foot a little bit easier, to give you a bit more control, to help you work towards balancing on one foot in general with the knees straight with a bit more ease. And two poses that I'll focus on. One is half moon pose and the other is one-legged deadlift, bending forward on one foot while facing in the same direction as the base foot. So let's get started. One of the most basic things that I like to focus on when teaching balance is simple weight shifting. And generally, I'll use this as a warm-up in quite a lot of my classes. Stand with your feet parallel, knees slightly bent. Simply shift your upper body forward relative to your feet so you feel your forefeet pressing down. Then slowly and smoothly shift back so that you feel the back of your heels pressing down. And generally what happens is people tip too far back, so they'll have to walk back. So the idea is, as soon as you feel your heels pressing down, as soon as you feel the backs of your heels pressing down, stop the backward movement of your body. Then shifting forward again, go slowly and smoothly. As soon as you feel your forefeet press down, you can lift your heels or let them lightly touch the floor. Stop the movement of your body. So shift back, as soon as you feel your heels press down, stop. Shift forward as soon as you feel your forefeet press down. Maximum pressure, with maximum pressure, stop your forward movement. So you repeat that a few times. You can do it, it can be a quite nice meditation. Shift slowly forward, shift slowly back. You can do the same thing on one foot. So for that, what I'd suggest is have your feet slightly turned out. Shift to one foot, and then here the same thing. Slowly shift forward, feel your forefoot pressing down. And shift back. Feel your heel pressing down. So same thing. Shift forward. As soon as you feel your forefoot press down, you can lift your heel, stop the forward movement, shift back, feel your heel pressing down, and then change legs. So shift forward, forefoot, shift back, heel, shift forward. So all I'm doing is focusing on feeling my foot and moving my body relative to my foot, and shift back and then relax. To get this idea of shifting and of feeling pressure, one exercise that I like to use is as follows. Start with your hands on the floor, and the idea here, so in that exercise part of the focus was on feeling the changes in pressure in your foot. You can apply the same idea to feeling your hands. So in this position, if you lift your knees, what you should notice is that your hands press down with greater pressure and your shoulders feel like they're active. From there, if you put your knees down, the pressure in your hands reduces. If you then shift back, you can slide your hands closer to your knees. See if you can go back far enough that your hands can lightly touch the floor so that you can lift your hands without having to shift your body. Place your hands lightly on the floor, and then shift forward so your hands start to press down. Lift your knees so your hands press down with greater pressure. Knees down, feel your hands relax slightly, feel the pressure relax slightly. Shift back, feel the hands lightly touching the floor. So you may need to use your shoulders to engage slightly so your hands lightly touch the floor, then lift. So when you're lifting, no shifting in the body. Place the hands down without shifting the body. Shift the body forward. Lift your knees, feel your hands press down greater. Knees down, shift back. So that's the basic exercise. You can practice that. The key point is to notice pressure changes in your hands. When you shift your weight forward and lift your knees, your hands press down. When you put your knees down and shift back your hands, the pressure, the way that your hands press down, that reduces so that you can actually lift your hands without touching, without moving your body. Now the next exercise is to try that in half moon pose. And if in half moon pose you can't actually reach the floor, then do use a yoga block. So, or place your hand on a chair or something like that. But here the same exercise can be used. Shift forward so that your hand presses down. Shift back, and what I'd suggest, shift back far enough, press your forefoot down so that then your hand relaxes so you can lift your hand. Hand down, shift forward, feel your hand press down. Shift back, press your forefoot down so you can lift your hand. Hand down, shift forward so that your hand has weight, your foot also has weight, so both your hand and your foot are both bearing weight. Shift back so it's only your foot bearing weight, then you can lift the hand. Then if you like, you can stand up. Note, if you have problems with the standing parts, we'll work on foot stability in a moment. The more important point here is getting used to moving your center relative to your foundation, your center of gravity. So shift forward, feel your hand press down, shift back, actively press your forefoot down, feel your hand relax. If your hand doesn't relax, move back further. Lift your hand. Hand down, shift forward. Feel your hand press down, shift back. Shift forward, feel your hand press down. Shift back. Press your forefoot down so your hand relaxes. Lift your hand. Then keep the forefoot pressing down. And then from there, stand up. So again, if you can't reach the floor, use a coffee table as long as it's not glass. Something stable so you can extend your reach to the floor. Now another exercise, another important part of balance is actually feeling and controlling the feet. So in that previous exercise, if you notice that your feet tend to cave in or you have trouble maintaining foot rigidity, one exercise that may help is shin rotation. And for this exercise, stand with your knees comfortably bent, weight forward so that your forefeet press down. Rotate your shins outwards. So as you rotate your shins outwards, and I've taught this exercise in other videos, as you rotate your shins outwards, your inner arch should lift. As you rotate your shins inwards, your arches collapse. So with a focus initially on that, feel your inner arches lift as you rotate the shins out. Feel your inner arches collapse as you rotate the shins in. You can repeat that a few times. Go slowly, go smoothly. You can even focus on the top of the shins here. Feeling the outside moving back, feeling the outside moving forward, feeling the inside moving forward, inside moving back. Once you have that, then focus on noticing your forefeet. As you rotate your shins out, notice the outer edge of your forefeet pressing the floor. As you rotate the shins in, feel the inside edge of your forefeet pressing the floor. So another thing you can notice as you rotate your shins out, feel the outside edge of your forefeet pressing the floor. You may notice some rigidity or muscle activation along the outside of the foot when the shins are rotating outwards. When you rotate inwards so that the inside edge of the forefoot presses the floor, you may notice that the inside edge of the foot stiffens. So practice that a few more times so that you get a feel for it, and then going back to half moon pose, practice the same thing. Keeping your hand on the floor, again, use yoga blocks if necessary. Rotate the shin out, feel the outside edge of the foot pressing the floor. Rotate the shin in, feel the inside edge of the foot pressing the floor, and actively press the forefoot down. Rotate the shin out. Rotate the shin in, rotate the shin out, rotate the shin in, and then when you're ready, stand up. An important point to note is tendency initially when rotating the shin out or in. So when rotating the shin in, the tendency is to lift the outside edge of the foot a lot. When rotating the shin out, the tendency is to lift the inside edge of the foot a lot. In particular, when doing half moon pose, as you get more used to the exercise, just rotate the shin enough that the inside edge of the forefoot presses down. You don't have to lift the outside edge of the foot totally. So initially, just get used to rotating the shin. Then, once you're used to that, focus just on pressing the inside edge of the forefoot down, pressing the outside edge of the forefoot without lifting too much the other side. So going to the other side, I'll show you from the back. And this is my not so good side. So here again, rotate the shin in. So notice the outside edge of my foot isn't lifting a lot, but the inside edge of my foot is active. Rotate the shin out. So feel the outside edge of the foot pressing the floor. So the inside edge hasn't lifted too much. Rotate in, rotate out. When you're ready, stand up. So the idea there then is, once you have a feel for that exercise, when doing something like half moon pose or bending forward, what you can then do is fine tune the amount of shin rotation. Rotate slightly inwards or outwards. Vary the amount of inwards outwards rotation so that either you have more pressure on the inside of the forefoot, more pressure on the outside, or somewhere in between. But use the position that makes your foot feel strong, that makes it feel stable. And try to, if nothing else, try to control the amount of rotation, so prevent your foot from collapsing inwards or outwards. So the final exercise you can do is, so in the previous video I talked about spreading and retracting the sitting bones, or pulling the sitting bones apart and pushing them together. And what that should lead you to is butt activation, butt muscle activation, or feeling of stability in the hip joint. So one thing you can do is, while standing on one foot, you can have your weight forward so the forefoot presses down. Either rotate the shin outwards or inwards. But try spreading the butt cheek of the standing leg, and then try to spread the butt cheek of the lifted leg, and then relax. So spread the sitting bones, I should say. Spread the sitting bone of this leg, spread the sitting bone of this leg, relax. Standing leg, spread the sitting bones, lifted leg, spread the sitting bone, relax. And then try the opposite, retract. Pull the sitting bone inwards, pull the sitting bone inwards. So in each case, you should get some muscle activation. Relax, sitting bone in, relax, sitting bone in, relax. And do the same thing for the other leg. And then once you have a feel for it, and as I said in the previous video, you could practice that sitting bone activation in a squat. Spread the sitting bones, relax, spread the sitting bones, relax, spread the sitting bones, relax, and then retract. Pull the sitting bones in, relax, pull the sitting bones in, relax, pull the sitting bones in, relax. You could also practice it while bending forward. And what I'd like to do is pull the sitting bones in first and then move the rib cage with that action. So the tendency with the sitting bones moving inwards is for the pelvis to tilt back. So what you could do is pull the sitting bones in, allow the pelvis to tilt back, rib cage to lift, and then relax. Put your hands back on your shins or on the floor on the table. Sitting bones in, relax, sitting bones in, relax, sitting bones in, relax. And then doing the opposite action, spreading the sitting bones, that can tend to tilt the pelvis forward. So it could actually help your forward bend. And you can adjust foot position slightly out or slightly in. Use whichever you feel helps you on any given day. So spread the sitting bones, relax. And so that you can adjust foot position easily, what might help is if you shift your weight forward so that your forefeet press down. So from here you can spread the sitting bones, relax, spread the sitting bones, relax, spread the sitting bones. So as I spread my sitting bones, I'm actually pushing my heels out and rotating my feet inwards slightly to make it easier to spread my sitting bones. So that's something else that you can do to practice controlling your sitting bones and thus creating hip joint stability. Now for half moon pose, because you're turned to the side, as you Spread the sitting bone. What you can do is keep your rib cage relatively stable, allow your lumbar spine to bend back. When you're pulling the sitting bone in, what you can do is allow your lumbar spine to flatten. You can also allow your body to move slightly or adjust slightly so that your hip joint feels more comfortable. But the important point is, when adjusting, make sure you keep the muscle activation, the sensation of your sitting bone either pulling out or pushing in. So starting on one foot, bending forward. So again, forefoot pressing down. If you have difficulty focusing on the forefoot, just focus on the sitting bone by itself. Then once you have the sitting bone controlled, then focus on keeping weight on your forefoot. Rotate the shin in or out as you need to, as well as controlling the sitting bone. So from here, sitting bone out, relax. So my torso and my leg are moving as I do that. Sitting bone out. But I can feel the sitting bone relax. Sitting bone out. Relax. Sitting bone in. Relax. Sitting bone in. So the standing leg. Relax. Sitting bone in. And then stand up. So should show you from the back. Excuse my dirty floor. I should have cleaned it. So sitting bone out, standing leg, relax, sitting bone out, relax, sitting bone out. So notice the pressure in your forefoot, relax, and then sitting bone in. So naturally what happens for me is, as I do the sitting bone in, it's more the outer edge of the forefoot, relax, sitting bone in, relax, sitting bone in, relax. And when I do sitting bone out, my weight tends to shift to the inside edge of the forefoot. Might be different for you, it might vary from day to day, but that's just what I'm noticing on this day. So notice these things, or use it, or deliberately choose. Anyway, it's an important thing to notice. More important, make your forefoot stable, use the sitting bone to control your hip joint. You may find that your balance is a little bit better. One other exercise you can do, facing forward. So for yoga people, this is like doing Warrior 3. Same, so basically tipping forward, if you like, touching the hands to the floor. You could be doing this at the gym, holding weight in one hand or the other. What I'd suggest, try it with the lifted leg side as well as the standing leg side. But in this position, you can shift your weight forward, so your forefoot press down, rotate the shin in or out as you need to, so that your ankle, your foot and ankle feel stable. What you could do, try pulling the sitting bone out, this leg. Slowly go forward, keep weight on the forefoot as you go forward. If you can only go down this far, that's fine. If you can touch yoga blocks or touch the floor, that's fine too. Keep sitting bone control, keep forefoot control as you stand up. What you could also do is try squeezing the sitting bone in. So weight forward, forefoot press down, shin rotated in or out, squeeze the sitting bone in, slowly go forward, keep the sitting bone engaged. So this I'm finding a little bit more difficult. And then come up, relax. Another thing you could try doing, spread the sitting bone as you go forward. So keep this sitting bone, keep the sitting bone pulled out as you go forward and down. Then as you come up, move the sitting bone inwards. Play around with it. Be clear on which one you're doing so that you can get on with doing it. And another thing you could do is, optionally, you can operate the sitting bone of the lifted leg as well. What I'd suggest initially, if you're spreading this sitting bone, spread this sitting bone. If you're retracting this sitting bone, retract this sitting bone. So do the same operation for both, at least initially. So weight forward on the forefoot, spread the sitting bone of the lifted leg. If you of the standing leg, go forward and down. Keep control of the sitting bone, keep weight on the forefoot, touch if possible, keep control of the sitting bone, keep control of the forefoot, and stand up. So there, what happens, this leg has always been challenging for me. It's getting better, is this foot for me tends to collapse inward, so I have to practice this a little bit more. So this time doing the sitting bone moving inwards. Whoa. The sitting bone moving inwards. And a point there, sometimes what I find helpful, because this leg tends to collapse inwards, if I focus around about here trying to control the bottom of the knee, that can make it a little bit easier to control. And then from there, sitting bone inwards. So that there is a bit more stable. Whoops, keep that control and come up. And generally what I'll find is this leg tires a lot quicker than this leg does. So again, forefoot pressing down, controlling the knee, moving the sitting bone. Let's move sitting bone out. And then sitting bone in to stand up. So there you have it, some muscle control actions that you can focus on feeling and controlling while working on balancing on one foot. Do the best you can. Practice if it helps. Hopefully this helps. Please let me know if it does. Also be aware that I do use a lot of different muscle control techniques. I experiment constantly. And some days some work, on some days other work. So practice this, see how it helps, and if you like it, do please let me know. And thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment box. And again, namaste.